Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Writing Essentials with AI. Brian, so glad to
Hey,
have you here. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, and it's always wonderful to be here with you, Anca. I think we're kindred spirits in the event industry and the writing and productivity industries. So
Well, for everyone that's joining us, I'm going to tell you, you're in for a treat. We really want to embed AI with creativity and writing and help support your writing process. May that be emails or maybe blog posts or articles or whatever content you write, all the way to books. I mean, Brian, you have written a few books in your lifetime. You are a book coach. I am a wannabe author. I'm still writing. I know you're getting on my case every time we talk about it. But for anyone that's new and joining us for the first time here, I'm wondering, do you have any other applications where you think this could be helpful to them that I missed?
yeah, while we wait, some other ones I think, obviously both of us have a big event industry following, and so doing descriptions for sessions is a great opportunity for AI because hey, you might have 50 of them for an event, and so do you really want to go in and write every single event description, or can you go grab that information and source it from their LinkedIn profile and their description of the session? So there's many opportunities to use it in different applications, and I think that's the most important part about today is we looked at what the audience wants, but this is not about writing a book. It's about using these different tools and in your writing in every part of your life and business.
Absolutely. And for everyone that is joining and they're trickling in, we are streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And I would love to have you just tell us where you're coming from, where you're tuning in from, what you're trying to get out of. And for an icebreaker, I was thinking about if you could have an AI assistant specialize in one specific task for you, what would it be and why? And Brian, do you want to be the first one to answer that?
All right, so I got distracted with your question. I'm not a good podcast host or guest because I saw that Claire's here. It's great to see Claire and Leslie. I mean, when I'm on a podcast and Claire shows up, I mean, I've arrived. What can I say? So let's go back to the question, Anka. I'll make sure I get that correct. Do
All
you
right.
even remember your question?
I do remember my question. I'm actually going to put it up here so you can see it. Look, if you
Yeah.
could have an AI assistant specialize in one specific task for you, what would it be and why? And I know you use
Yeah.
AI, even though
Yeah.
you rely heavily on your creative process,
Yeah.
which you're going to get into in a minute. But let's just, for the sake of everyone, giving them the the desire to answer this, because some people might be shy to say that they use AI.
No, I think actually you're gonna see why I want the particular AI assistant that I want, and it actually may be out there. I haven't gone that far, and I send my newsletter out in ConvertKit, and so the hardest part of that for me is the last leg of the journey, which is compiling my newsletter and making it look presentable. And so right now, that's still a very manual process for me, and I'd like to get to the point that I can actually paste that pre-designed content into a module and have it compile and put it into a nice format so I don't have to actually do that work. And the benefit for there is I'm not getting weighed down. Obviously, actually, there is a virtual assistant that's a solution to that problem right now, but I don't know if there's an AI assistant. But the benefit is I can stay focused on the creative aspects of my business and the information instead of getting bogged down in the technical compiling of that information.
Well, the good news is Claire loves you back. So
Oh,
there we have
thanks,
it. Now,
Claire.
thank you to everyone that joined us. I see Janice, Raquel, Leslie, Debbie. I think I'm missing some people. I do not see the stream right now popping in from YouTube on in the studio, but everyone that joined us, thank you. And with that, let's get us into talking a little bit how is AI transforming the writing process? Now, I know that AI is not new to many of you, and the way I see it is really changing how we approach writing by becoming a super handy tool for everything from like brainstorming ideas to organizing content and even editing. At its core, AI really can help you analyze text, generate new content, offer suggestions that can really boost not just your creativity but also your productivity. And I know, Brian, you have your
Yeah.
headline productivity expert. You're almost like your own version of AI, right?
A little bit. Now, obviously when we were preparing for this yesterday and then I saw some of your workflows, I'm definitely a little jealous, and I have a few upgrades ahead of me, and we're looking forward to. I think what'll be cool is I have a workflow that actually is very similar to yours, except you have additional automation to yours. And so I'm glad I'm on the same track as you as well, but you can actually improve upon it. And so, this is just great comparing notes. And I know I shared a couple tools with you that you have not used that I think are game changers as well. So, uh,
Absolutely. Plus, I
super
also
stoked.
love how organized your Notion is. I was literally thinking about like goals, hashtag goals. I need to hire someone to organize my Notion, but that wouldn't work because, like, what if they organize it in a way that doesn't make sense
Yeah.
for me? So I still have to do it myself.
No, and to be quite honest, I took a course called Notion Mastery, which I definitely have a pretty leg up as a very comprehensive course. But my favorite thing about the course is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. If you can't build it to match your workflow, it's useless. And so that's my workflow. Your workflow is different. Also, it's kind of like the LinkedIn feed. I did clean up my what I'm sharing from my Notion database for publishing out to the world today. So if we went to another section of it, it might be a little bit more familiar looking. So
So you only
yeah,
showed me
yeah,
like your
yeah.
organized. Got it. All right. Fair enough.
Now, okay, well, I'll turn off the filters live and actually peel back the truth here. So, and that is the fun part about Notion for those of you who will see this, is you can actually put some really good filters on your views, and you don't have to invite people into your bedroom or you know keep the living room clean, kind of thing.
I was gonna say it's like you only invited me into the living room because that's all
Yeah,
I saw. So okay,
yeah.
fair enough. Well, let's look at one of my favorite way in which I love AI and the ability to help me take over some of those repetitive tasks. And when you mention automation, for me that's big. If there's a way in
Mm,
which I can focus more on the parts that are creative, like especially when it comes to writing, that really needs your own personal touch, and then delegate some of the repetitive tasks to AI, I'm all for that. And I constantly find new ways in which I can improve my workflow. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if there's a way in which I can do it, that's kind of like where I'm coming from. Now, I want to touch on a few key concepts when we're talking about AI in writing. There's not going to be a lot of technicalities, but for anyone that is curious, one of the main technologies behind AI in writing is called natural language processing, or NLP. This is what allows AI to understand and generate text, making it possible for the tool to interact with us in a way that feels natural and intuitive. The way natural language processing works is it breaks down language into a form that AI can process. It can enable it to analyze it, what's been written. It can suggest improvements or even generate new content that fits your style. But there's another piece of the puzzle here that needs to be mentioned, and that is large language models, or LLMs. You're going to hear us talk about LLMs because I might say ChatGPT, but actually what I mean is any LLM out there. So if you're a fan of Claude, if you're a fan of Perplexity, if you're a fan of Grok or Gemini, whatever it is that you use, when I say ChatGPT, I really kind of include all of them because it's kind of become, the term that we now use to
Yep.
define what LLM is. And if you're not familiar with what an LLM is, it's like it's basically it's the foundation that helps AI understand language. It's like the engine that powers it. And LLMs are normally trained on massive amounts of text data. They're learning the patterns, the structures, the nuances of the language. And it's what makes a tool like ChatGPT, for example, so powerful, because they've been trained on so much text that they can then generate responses that feel incredibly human-like. Now, there's something to be said about training an LLM to sound like you, to talk like you, and that's something that Brian will walk you through because he's very strong on prompting. Anything that comes out of Brian's mouth, even or post, even though it might be enhanced by AI, and I'm the same way, it most likely was trained on some kind of a data set that sounds like Brian. Do you have any tips on that? How you did it in the beginning, Brian? Really quick.
Yeah, I think, you've touched on a number of good points, which is, the LLM, it's kind of like Coke and Pepsi out there. So you definitely want to try out some different products. As we're going to be digging into Claude as well, I prefer Claude as my LLM versus ChatGPT. However, they both have different functionalities or different strengths. And so I always encourage you to try them out. I also encourage you to just not be afraid of these tools. You need to actually, I have a personal motto. It's called be the trend. And what that means for me is I'm always asking myself, what's a tool that's really popular right now that people are trying? I may not be ready for it, but I go ahead and sign up for it and I start figuring out how I integrate it into my life. So if you don't have a ChatGPT account, go pick that up right now and, come up with your own prompt based on the end of the day. A prompt might be, I am new at writing with AI. What are some tips for writing better with AI? And actually ask ChatGPT to help you or Claude to help you. So that would be my tip, is to actually, always tip your toe into these new technologies. And then as you learn them, expand them further into your workflows.
Absolutely. Now, before we dive into our tech stack, our workflow,
Mm.
and how we do what we do, I just want to bring up just a couple of key important considerations, just because I feel like it's important, especially when you talk about AI. First off, while those tools are very powerful, they're not perfect. So you have to really think about of the type of content that you're producing that either might lack the nuance that a human writer or content writer would naturally have. It's important to review and refine any AI generated content so that it aligns with your intent and it maintains the quality of the content that you would expect or your audience will expect. And then another consideration here is ethical, obviously. Some of those LLMs are trained on vast data sets that include all kinds of content. So there is a risk of biases being reflected in the output. And being aware of this and actively working to address it, it can really help prevent the spread of stereotypes and information. And I mean, nobody wants to do that. And then one last consideration that I wanted to bring up here is think about how much control you want to give AI versus maintaining your creative voice. Because while AI can handle a lot of the heavy lifting, it is important to strike a balance so that the final product really feels personal and true to your own style. And that is something that Brian is really going to touch on because while I really care for AI to be accurate, Brian really cares for AI to be authentic. So I feel like we're going to strike a great perfect. And with that, I want to pass it on to you, Brian, if you want to walk us through your tech stack, and we're going to share some screen here. And while you're watching us, be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that some of those prompts that we put in a chat you interact with. One of them being like, for example, what challenges or concerns have you faced when integrating AI into your own content creation process? And again, when I say content creation, you don't have to think about, oh my gosh, I'm not a content creator. Well, do you write emails? Do you write LinkedIn posts? Do you write social media posts? That makes you a content creator in my book. So just think about that. And with that, I'm passing it on to you, Brian.
Thanks, Anca. I want to touch on a couple points that you mentioned there, and I actually do have a distinction on where you draw the line when it comes to how you lead with your writing with AI at the front side, and where when you lead with HI, which is human intelligence. That's your ideas, that's your thoughts, and so my goal is I'm all about building trust, and that's why I'm so passionate about books and helping people write books, because books help you build trust, credibility, authority. And there's a lot of suspicion in today's world of what's real and what's not. And so I love that my two passions, I'm in live events by day, I do this book coaching by night. What's great about those is they're all about trust. There's nothing better than the real thing. When you can pick up that book and hold it in your hand. Now, people may get suspicious of that content and may be like, hey, that's not real. But the key is that you're doing something that is authentic and real. But my distinction is I lead with AI when it's functional content. I mentioned earlier, descriptions for a session, things that aren't necessarily inert to say that I wrote it. When it's my name on it, I want to start with my thoughts and my ideas and then enhance it with AI. If I'm just doing a description or some kind of information sharing, I'll lead with AI first. So that's a good way to decide, in my opinion, on how to use these. So I today will be sharing more of the previous model that I mentioned, which is starting with me. Starting with my ideas and insights and building upon that and using AI to enhance the output of that. So, at this point, I want to share some of my tech stack. Some of this stuff is, I went ahead and denoted paid and free. Be honest, most of these, the free version would probably get you the outcomes of what I'm going to share today. And so definitely encourage you to consider the free versions. I try to stay in a free version. But since I am, I mentioned I like to be on the front side of trends. I do often pay for paid subscriptions so that I can get to those more advanced tools. So my favorite tool of all time, it's been a game changer for me. It definitely has a learning curve, is Notion.so. And the easiest way to describe that is it's a little bit of everything. It's database management. It's Kanban boards and productivity, and you can use it as pseudo word processor, but it's a little bit of everything, and it's designed to build out to exactly how you want it. Then my next piece of the puzzle is I like to use, I'm a big fan of using browser extensions. So, you're going to link, you're using Notion, you want to make sure you have the browser extension saved to Notion. That's not exactly AI, but it does contribute to your productivity. Another tool I use is Notion Sender, which is more of an email add-on. I can have a distinct email address that I can fire things off into my databases. And then this is where we get into the part that, I want it to be authentic. I usually start my writing out in Hemingway Editor. There's also, if you go to hemingwayapp.com, there is a free version online you can use, but I actually will be demonstrating the desktop version, and I'll share later why I use that instead of the online version. Google Docs, it's part of my process, and I'll share why I use that. Grammarly, you can go with the free version of that or the paid version. I like to have a paid version because I want those enhanced improvements. I've used Grammarly to train myself. Every email, every document I'm writing, I'm getting suggestions from Grammarly live, real time. And I start to make changes in my writing style based on those little prompts I'm getting from Grammarly. And I spelled Claude AI. I can go fix this live right here since I'm in the document. There you go. And that's just to prove that we're live here. So, and actually, with that being said, I'm gonna fix that one too. I just miss my E's, I guess. I use another tool. It's not necessarily AI, but it is one of the biggest game changers for me. It's a text expansion tool called Text. Oh, and I'm missing all kind of letters in that one. There you go.
Well, good that we're live so we can fix it.
And then I list the next one as ChatGPT. slash Dolly. Because if you do the paid version, you actually get the Dolly add-on for image generation. That is part of my process. And then ConvertKit is kind of my end destination. If we have time, I may pop into Authored Up and show you how I move it back to LinkedIn at the end, but I don't know if we're going to get to that today. But that is another tool out there that is a major part of my tech stack.
Love it. Well, there's definitely a lot here. I am a big fan of Notion as well. Like I said, I do tend to organize some of my things in Notion, not as organized as you are. We're not even going to get behind my own Notion because this is just one of the project files. I do rely heavily on ChatGPT as well. I love the fact that I can save a lot of my chats and then give it certain coding so I know what I'm looking for. I would archive things that are no longer relevant. Like, for example, I have things that I'm ready to post, but I don't, the ones that have been posted, they're already gone away. I do fact check a lot of the content that I'm planning to write, especially on the AI research, AI tips, AI latest news with Perplexity. I do use Claude, as you mentioned, for creative writing. I feel like Claude is really good when it comes to creative writing, and it has a better output. And lately, I started playing with Potty Rock. I know this is not a tool that is talked a whole lot, but it's on based on the AWS platform, and you're basically using it like a ChatGPT, but it's a way more customizable. And we can play a little bit with this to see it. And then, sort of like the piece de resistance is my workflows. So this is something that we're going to go through, and then I'm going to show you how I can take one piece of content that comes from one spreadsheet where I kind of put news and articles that feel interested to me. And I fill this up as I go. Like, this just, it's an ongoing live document. And then I have this workflow where it pulls it from this link, from this Google Sheet, and the next link, you'll go to the next link based on a schedule. Right now, every Monday at 7:30 a.m., it pulls a new link. It will fact check it and format it, and then I can walk you through a little later. But that's kind of like what I do. And then for my book that is to be written,
Yeah.
I mean, there's chapters in the making,
Yeah.
but there's also a lot of things that like needs more work. There's nothing there. I use a software-based tool that is called Scrivener, and it has now it has a pro writing aid, which allows it's kind of on this side if you all see it, but it allows AI to help some of the writing on this. So that's kind of like my tech stack. And with that, I would love for us to actually go into the workflow, because I feel like there's a lot of power in our workflows. And I know, Brian, you have quite a comprehensive workflow. So I'll let you take it over.
Well, thank you so much, Anca. I also use Scrivener. It's a great tool. I don't always lead with that for the general audience, but if you are going to get into book writing, things of that nature, is a great tool for that. And I use it as well. So I endorse that front if you're going to go down the book writing route. So I'll be honest, I came up with this acronym for today, and I actually used ChatGPT to help me come up with this. But it does represent what we're going to cover. This is truly my process. So my code is create, which is capture, route, express, augment, transform, and execute. And so, and that actually is a leftover bullet point from earlier, but whatever. So, so I'm going to go into these one by one, and we're going to start with the capture, and I'm going to share with the route. And I just want to start with this, and being a person who has ideas around the clock, who's just constantly inspired by different things. Notion was the game changer for me. All the diverse ideas I have, all the different media forms, I decided that Notion was the best place to get that captured. I believe that one of the challenges people face when it comes to writing and making sure that they use their authentic voice is they lack a system for capturing that content and data. And so if I were to give you one piece of advice is get really clear about how you're bringing those ideas in and putting them in a place that you can use them efficiently. And so I'll share my workflow. It may not be yours, but find something. And this kind of dates back to ages ago. There was a note taking app called Catch Notes, and it went away. And it took me forever. Evernote was close, but it never fulfilled everything I was looking for. And so now that I have Notion available to me, it's actually been a game changer, and I've been able to create at a much higher capacity than I ever have been. So Claire asked the question, how much do I have invested in my paid tech stack? It's a little tough because I have a nested tech stack. I work in audiovisual productions by day, so I have certain tools that are available to me through my office. My tech stack in full size goes up to $300. Okay. And that's on a monthly rate. However, the tools that we're covering today, I think I'm spending somewhere between $60 and $80 across the tools we're covering here. But you would not need all of the paid version of these tools to be successful. So let's jump into the captured area here. And most of you know I'm a LinkedIn person. I spend a vast majority of my time on LinkedIn, and I have all kinds of inspirations here. And I'm in the feed here. And actually, this is my copywriting coach, Stacy Alexco, right here. And she's writing something about solopreneurs. And if I were inspired by that and wanted to actually capture this into my inspiration database, I could click these little dots here and click link to post. But before I do that, I'm going to share this little tool I have. It's up here in the upper corner here. I have something called Save to Notion, or sometimes called Notion Saver. If I click that, it fires up this little applet on the right, and you can see Stacy Alexa. This isn't like those other summits, and it gathered some information from that particular post. And when I click Save Page, it'll actually fire into my database. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you that. But I'm going to go over here because I saved this post because I did prepare for us today. Anca's got one about her Event About It podcast, which is all about people in the event industry that are fun war stories from the field. And so I thought I would use that as my prompt today. So a couple tips. This little tool I'm using, Send to Notion, doesn't always do a great job of grabbing the actual URL for the post. So I always recommend when you click here on these little dots, you do copy link to post. And it's going to pop up in the bottom left corner, this view post. You want to click that, because what it's doing right now is it's actually populating the exact address to that post. And why that's important is you may want to come back and source it later. So here we go. We're going to fire this off. What's really cool about this tool, I'm going to show you a little bit behind the scenes here, is I can have different types of ways that I capture content. As an example, this is my content database. I'm picking up a little bit of info about the post. It's actually going to drive some of the information here into my database. Sorry, I got my camera blocking a few of these fields. I go ahead and auto-populate a tag LinkedIn that I use. I have a status of draft that I start with. And but I also, if I click over here, I have stuff that goes straight to my library. I write on Medium, and I have different stuff that I go to a Medium database, so that you can go ahead and create some custom workflows right out of this app. So I'm going to fire this off here, and then we're going to do a big reveal of my Notion database over here. And let's see if it's there. So as you can see here, here's Stacy Alexco. Sorry, Stacy, I'm butchering your name. And here's Anca's post. I told you it was going to go into the draft bucket. This is my content database system on Notion. So we are in Notion right now. And feel free to drop questions or comments.
So really quick here, because I'm trying to follow with you and set up my Save to Notion because I didn't have that extension and I thought it was brilliant. When you save to Notion and you start creating your fields, do you have particular fields that you created for your content bucket?
Well, I have certain fields I use. They're not necessarily, I don't use every field. I have, if you see here, for those who are in Notion, I mean, my field lists are very broad and deep, but you wouldn't need that. You may want to have a field that is the post body, maybe it's whatever, but you could go ahead and format these out. I think for most people, you just need the basic information that's going to make its way over. But for those who want to become Notion experts, I have things like it ties to some action databases where I can actually create tasks related to different inspiration, my branding asset databases. I have different things, the published date, the day I actually wrote it. I track different things like that. So, hey, was I more inspirational in October of 2023? Whether I ever use that data to be determined. So, but kind of give you a wide view here is if I scroll over, I'm a big fan of Kanban boards. I think they're, a visual system is great. So you see my progression. I go from idea to draft. I'd normally actually fire these into this bucket here. I would come here and say, hey, I want to write my newsletter on this particular topic. I would move it over to the draft bucket. And from there, I'd start working on it from there. And then I can move it into editing. We mentioned earlier book writing and Scrivener. This is actual content for my upcoming book, Leader in the Rough. And so you can see that I have all that content in my editing process. When it's ready, I can put it here. Once it's scheduled, I use different tools to schedule content. I actually use Authored Up for that, which I mentioned earlier. And then I move it over to the Publish tab. You're not seeing a whole lot of published content here because I reduced my date fields so that you didn't have to see everything. But in my published field, I have over 800 unique pieces of content from both LinkedIn posts and newsletters I've sent out that I can go through and repurpose for other uses. So it's very robust. I mean, 800 pieces of content to go after. So I highly, and I spent a better part of 3 months developing this for myself. You don't need to take that long, but I think the front side really makes a difference because this is going to pay off for years to come for me. So from there, this is, we're going to get into the fun part here. So I'm just going to come over here. I could change the title here. You can see it actually grabbed a screen grab. What I would do from here is I would come over and highlight this information because that's kind of my prompt. And I mentioned a product called Hemingway Editor. And I'm going to come over here. And what I would normally do is just paste that little bit of a prompt that I have for myself. And I might have to clean up some of that, but just, but as you see here, I'm starting to get all kinds of fun colors. And for those of you who don't know what Hemingway Editor is, it's just a very simple tool to make your writing more peppy, more concise, more readable. And so what it does is as you're typing, if I said, hello, Anca, I am teaching you how to use AI and productivity tools. See right now, it doesn't have any issues with that sentence, but if actually we go up to Anca's post, it actually doesn't like it. Just a short snippet. Sorry, Anca. Obviously, it's formatted, but it actually is telling me this sentence is hard to read. And so while I am working, I can actually make edits to this. It's actually giving me suggestions here. Be bold, don't hedge. So instead of just saying just a short snippet, I'm going to say a short snippet. Now, when you're on LinkedIn, maybe that doesn't make sense. And that's why I like about this is it's real-time editing of the words that you're writing. And so what I would do is go on and write out my content. And I mentioned earlier, there is an online version if you go to HemingwayApp.com, and this is free. I don't use it. It does have some AI options here. Since I have other AI tools, I've decided not to go down this route. I have a very specific reason why I use Hemingway Editor, so I'm just going to do that. I do this. I've just isolated myself from the internet right now. And I think as you're wanting to write, you want to limit your distractions. And so Hemingway has been a great tool for me to not get caught up in going to check my LinkedIn feed or go into my Notion database. I'm going to go ahead and write my post real quick. And let's see, you guys are going to be impressed at how quick I write this. Oh my gosh, I just wrote an entire post. So for the record, I wrote this live. This is how I wrote it. My train of thought, I wrote this on Sunday afternoon. And I shared a story about how the fire marshal almost killed me. That's my story. I will post this later for anybody who's interested. But you can see if I were really not trying to write this fast, all along, I would have been getting prompts from Hemingway to update my work, get rid of the word omit, get rid of typically. The red is, too wordy, too complicated. So I would start revising those sentences.
Well, Brian, you should definitely send us that story because we might cover it into our
Yeah.
next episode.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. So maybe we'll do it on the next live podcast of that. So, but the reason why I like this is I am making conscious choices about these changes in this process. And I think that's important about building that authenticity in your writing and not relying on AI for that. Everybody noticed how quick I wrote that. I actually did 5 keystrokes. The keystroke was Z fire. And that's 5 keystrokes to write that entire article. Obviously, I wrote that over about a 30-minute period on Sunday. But I want to share another tool. Okay, so the next part of the process is this. And we're going to go back over here. And I'm going to head over to my preferred LLM, which is Claude. Okay, and let's get rid of that little box there. I'm already in Claude. I'm going to go to the prompt. And we mentioned Anca's got a course called AI. Is it AI for ChatGPT? Why don't you say the name? I'm going to screw it up.
It's Mastering ChatGPT, a guide to prompting frameworks. And when I say ChatGPT, like I said, it's not just ChatGPT, it's any LLM. If you prompt an LLM, this ebook masterclass is basically for you.
All right. So from here, like I said, I wrote this particular piece of content. I'm going to probably publish it in my newsletter in the coming weeks. And so I'm going to use a prompt that I developed for my newsletter. And my prompt, if we go through it, I'm going to share a little bit on it. I am very direct with Claude. Keep my writing voice, keep my tone, minimal edits, edit for context, things of that nature. And then I give a little background. I write a weekly newsletter to aspiring authors, and I add a little bit of context to it. So that's a pretty long prompt there. So this is where I get into the tool Text Expander that I mentioned. So with a simple prompt, I can go, and I'm going to have to ZTWT. And wow, that just wrote my prompt that quickly. So as you can see here, maintain my voice, casual, confident, helping, loving, on their team, quirky and silly, never over the top, slightly bent towards professional, motivating, encouraging, coaching, helpful. Article should be about them, not me. Reader is the hero. So that's kind of the art of the prompt is telling Claude what you want it to do with the content you're going to share. So I feel confident when I come over here and, I already have a shortcut for this content, but normally I would come over here, copy this. And then from there, I would paste that in there, and then I'll ask Claude to go ahead and do the work. And so from there, Claude's doing work. And by the way, we talked about ChatGPT versus Claude. A couple thoughts on that as Claude works is I found that Claude pays attention to me better than ChatGPT. That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. And when I tell Claude not to go over the top with the way he writes, I don't know if he's a he, he's kind of got a Claude. I think Claude's a male name. I don't know in today's world if we can do that or not, but let's just say Claude actually takes my direction better. I find ChatGPT gets a little loquacious, gets a little too creative for me. And
So I have the opposite experience just because I feel like I've used ChatGPT the longest and I have trained it so well that it really, really knows me. But it sounds like you are the opposite just because you've used Claude for so long and trained it fast. So I guess the
yeah,
takeaway is whichever tool you invest the most time with, most likely is going to sound the most like you.
absolutely. Yeah. And so that's why you have to experiment. You know, that requires you to test them out, you know, do a comparison, give the same prompt to ChatGPT, give the same prompt to Claude and see what you like better. Couple things about this status where we are now. So, you know, obviously I always say don't trust the output of any of AI. And what I mean is it's not lying. It just doesn't have the human context that we have. It's not going to get all the nuance of the human experience. So uh, I would have to click through. All right. So actually Claude actually didn't do a good job here. It looks like Claude wants me to tell it, go ahead and do it. Oh, well, I know
While
that.
while it's doing that, I want to highlight what Raquel or Rachel. I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm sorry. And she's talking about ways in which she uses ChatGPT to help her better understand topics, generate ideas, understand the kind of titles she should be reaching out because she's an event producer and they're responsible for researching topics, creating agenda, sourcing speakers, writing both email and copy for events. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you're in the chat and you have other creative ways in which you use any LLM for that matter, I would love to hear it because I feel like that really gives people more inspiration in ways that they could use it themselves.
Yeah, on that note, for the event professionals that have joined us, PCMA's got their own AI tool called Spark. I think it goes by Spark AI or SparkIt. Look it
Mhm.
up. But what I love about it is it's designed in a way that it actually addresses all the key pieces of the event flow for an event. So you actually have a module for writing course descriptions, a module for writing um, speaker bios and things of that nature. So for those in the event industry, I encourage you to go out there. It just kind of helps guide you through the process instead of having to do it ad hoc within something like Claude or ChatGPT. So we went ahead and updated the article here, and I got that posted here, and you can see that's a lot of information. It's a pretty long article. I'm a little lazy, to be quite honest, and I don't want to read it right now. So I'm just going to ask Claude, let me know what changes you made. This is my process. I mean, you may choose a different path, but from there, I'm going to go through this list and decide whether I actually like what Claude has done to my article. Added paragraph breaks. That's a good thing. Corrected some capitalization. Of course you did, because I just did a train of thought when I entered it. You know, how much time would I spend hunting down things like that if I were to do it on my own? Added some commas, change some of my ellipses. I probably need to add in my prompt, I love ellipses, and leave them alone. Quit messing with them. Added quotation marks. You know, so these are all really good changes. So I'm probably going to trust this. Okay. So minus me taking the time to go through this, I want to share the next step of my process. And this one's a little interesting. You're going to probably wonder why I'm doing this, and it's just my process. But I go over to my Google Doc and I paste it here. And the reason why I do that is you know, just as Claude has its style, just as ChatGPT has its style, Grammarly has its own natural algorithm that it uses. And I actually like a lot of what Grammarly does. So I paste it back into Grammarly, and now it's going to fight with Claude. And I'll come here and I'll be like, decide whether I want to take that change that Grammarly is providing. Grammarly saying significant instead of large. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't need to say actually. It was approved, you know, so what's interesting is Claude went ahead and did a certain amount of work, but maybe it's not as polished as I like. So I like to go ahead and run it through from there. And so let's just assume I go through and make all these changes for the sake of keeping us moving forward. And this is kind of where we move forward. And just to be clear, my create process, we started with the capture as a reminder. We went to, I'm gonna forget my own little acronym here, to the routing with.
Is it because you just invented it? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it is my process, but the word I just invented this week. So, and it is good. I like it. I'm going to expand.
Just giving you a hard time. Just giving you a hard time.
That's only fair. That's how we do things, Anca. So, but yeah, we've routed it to my Notion, and we can pop back in there if we have time. But so we're going over. I'm ready to go to my newsletter now. I want to go ahead and post this. I want to get it out into the wild, and I actually forgot to log into ConvertKit. So let's see how much work I need to do to get in there. So I use a tool called ConvertKit. I'm going to go into my broadcasts. And although this is not AI, what I'm going to be sharing with you, I do think it's all about productivity and about templatizing what you're doing. So pop into my newsletter here. You can see it doesn't give me much of a template here, but I have a style, and I'm going to browse my templates. Here's my newsletter. It's called The Right Time for Aspiring Authors. I'm going to replace the content. Oh, look at that smiling Brian here in the header. And I'm actually now up to 247 subscribers. And if you all go out to signup.brianmonahan.me, I'll get that number up over 250. So, but I already got a template for my newsletter. I'm going to put the name of the issue. I have 4 segments I usually do: a featured article, a writer meme of the week, word of the week, and then I call it Friends of the Bri. Those are just me promoting the people I love and people like Anca. If you do get my newsletter, I've been promoting this particular podcast for 4 weeks. So you can see I already have a placeholder for my image. I have a place to drop my article text. And so we're going to go back and grab that edited text. Hit copy. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to replace that. Hit paste. And I'm going to drop it in there. And from there, I can decide if I want to go spend some time highlighting some different items. I might change colors. I might mess around with some bullet points, but I'm in the formatting process. And so how do we get back into the AI conversation? And so this is where I use ChatGPT. You see here, I have an article image placeholder. Back in the day, you go out and find stuff on Unsplash and, the various photo sites to go ahead and hold that image. But I'm going to go over to ChatGPT. Now I'm going to share another little tip. I actually use another Chrome extension called ChatGPT Assistant. It links directly into my account. I like it because it pops up its own window. I have to log back into my session. And all right. Why did you log me out? But we'll get back in there. All right. So I'm back in ChatGPT. As I mentioned, I am in a paid version, and there's actually 2 parts to this. You can actually go use Dolly, which is the image generator, but I'm kind of lazy, to be quite honest. I don't have even I don't want to waste any time. So I'm going to go in here and say, please create an image to go with my article. And then I'm going to hit Control V. And I don't know if it's got my information available. Let me go copy that again.
So I'm curious for anyone that's in chat while Brian is getting all of those prompts in, how do you balance using AI with maintaining your unique voice? Do you have any strategies? Feel free to share that.
Ooh, I like Evelyn comment about using ChatGPT to reverse engineer.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's wow, that's brilliant. I think, across all kinds of things, have ChatGPT review a web page, tell you why it's effective. So yeah, that's definitely a great way to use the tool. Was there anything else in there that you saw?
Um, that was uh, that was shared a little earlier, but I'm curious now if you do use AI, how are you maintaining your unique writing voice for anyone that's doing that? And I'm sure everyone in chat has used AI, so don't be shy.
It looks like we have a question. What is AI? That's artificial
um,
intelligence.
yeah, let's go back to the beginning and we'll answer that in the beginning. So sounds like you got that's a pretty good mess
Yeah,
image. How the fire
yeah,
marshal almost killed me. I love how
yeah,
far along
yeah.
Dolly has come, especially when it comes to letters and words, because it used to be such a like mash of things, and now it's become quite a long ways. And I'm kind of impressed actually, because I constantly compare Dolly to ideogram to Midjourney, and it's turning to be quite good on some of those outputs, especially when it comes to words.
Yeah, so couple things here. I just went ahead and clicked the download. I renamed the image .png. I am not going to go into my downloads folder because I have so many bad pictures of my neighbor who's a junk dealer, and I realize they're in there and they're not appropriate for today. But I'm going to drop this on the desktop. A couple things. ChatGPT likes to kick things out as a web P or whatever that particular format is. That's what Google prefers these days. But for those of you out there, if you actually just change the extension to PNG, usually it will allow you to do that. And that's actually a little bit more usable extension. So I've saved that to my desktop. I'm going to come back to my newsletter here. I'm going to click on that. I use ConvertKit all the time, so I know when I click on it, it'll bring up the opportunity to replace that image. Yesterday, Anca and I did a test. Here's my fire marshal photo from yesterday just to see how differently it rendered today. I'm going to choose that file to upload. I go to my desktop, click on that fire marshal, and bam, I have an updated newsletter article with an image that's relevant. I usually go out each week to the web and find a fun new meme about writing. And I share with Anca that I have a standing meeting with the owner of my company. And usually I say some ridiculous word. And we have a fun little habit. I say, that's the word of the week. And I try to use it many times throughout the week, partly to annoy him and partly for the fun of it. And that's so if you see the word of the week in my newsletter, know that in real life, there's some story behind it. But moving on, so we've gone through and, hey, I'm going to just say fire. That's the name of the newsletter. I'm going to go ahead and send it. And, we're not going to get to that part. I'm going to hit continue. I don't want to do that just yet. But I can use that image again. So advanced options, publish to web, I actually get the opportunity for a thumbnail. So since we actually use this one here, I might use this one. So I have a different image here, but just showing the benefit of this. If I were to go as far as sending this out, it would land, it hit your inbox if you're on my list. And I mentioned we're going to go full circle today, right? So this is pretty much my workflow. Appreciate you guys listening. And obviously you can drop questions in the comments for us. I'll drop a link with this links to this tech stack as well. But we're going to go back over to my content database. And I'm just going to show you an example. I'm actually not going to send that particular email, but if I were to go back here, this is actually an email I got from Notion about task wikis and database. And I'm lying here. I'm going to go over this one. This is my newsletter from a couple weeks ago. And it was in my inbox, and I wanted to have an actual finished copy sent to my Notion database. So I use that tool called Notion Sender, forward that off, and now I have a copy of my newsletter in my Notion database for reference. That way, if I ever choose to go off a ConvertKit to another platform, I have the final copy of this for access. So we started in this database, we ended in this database. This will become a prompt for future dates. I might post this to Medium. I might turn it into a LinkedIn post. But that's the goal of this particular workflow, is that you can actually repurpose this content and organize it in a way. I mentioned to you, we're going to do the big reveal, and then I'm going to finish up and hand it back to you, Anca.
Awesome.
So let's see. Here's my filter. Oh, that's just May 3rd to August 1st. So let's go ahead and delete the filter. So, uh-oh. So you can see all my different inspirations here, but there, it does give you a good view here. I was going to release a new newsletter called Prompt and Grind about quickly deploying content back in February. You can see I wrote the first 5 posts and abandoned the idea, but they're still there. Actually, I wrote the first 30 posts and never actually did it. And over here is that I lied to you. It's only 538 of them. I do have some other stuff in my other libraries, but I have 538 posts that I can go to. I pull that up here. And if I want to take that information and turn that into a new newsletter article, I have access to that information. So hopefully that was helpful to everybody. My way is not your way. Hopefully I gave you some ideas on how to augment your workflow and integrate AI and productivity into what you're doing.
I was gonna say, I've only maybe this year when I started saving my LinkedIn posts, I realized the power behind organizing this in a way where I can go back and even like revive some of those posts and update them or add to them. Up until this year, I haven't done it honestly, and I would lose really good posts because I could never find them. Yes, you can go to LinkedIn and download your archive and you can go and find it that way. There is a way. However, like in a way where you can easily access it. And then another thought that came to my mind is like, especially if you're a professional, like somebody that constantly shares insights, and sometimes those insights come to you like on, on a one-time basis. You had a magical idea, you put it into a post, and then it's forever forgotten years from now, unless you have a way to organize it. And maybe down the line, you can go back and say, hey, I can write a book. I can write an ebook from all of those things that I share over time, because now I have the database to go to. And that just gives you, half of the homework done.
Yeah. And, when it comes to writing, one thing, just on a writing tip is everybody thinks they got to come up with unique content. That's not true. You need to come up with unique ways of displaying your idea. Your idea is the key. Your take on it. People want it. And so you're always going back to the same message and reformatting in new ways. And so having that database, and I'm going to show you a little hack here real quick, because I think it's really important. If you click on my profile, and any of you can do this, you go look at your own profile and you scroll down here and you go and you get to your own post activity. And if you click show all your posts, you can see here that this is us live right now. And if I want to database this, I go click here. I'm going to just go right through the process. I'm going to go copy link to post, view post. Now I'm actually at the actual URL to this podcast. And it's probably taking a little bit longer. Look, I like my scowl there. That's great. But from there, I'm going to go to send to Notion. And I actually keep LinkedIn content in my my library. So I hit save to page and off to Notion, and I have access to that post at a later date. So
I just did that. I just did that the same way, because you just showed me that there's a way to do it easily without me having to copy and paste. Now, what I want to dive into is a bit of automation, because something like this can be done with a lot of workflows that you can embed. And there's multiple ways in which that can be done. I use 2 tools for automation. But before I dive into those, I gave you guys an assignment, and I'm going to bring up my screen now. And Let's see. I'm gonna mute your mic really quick, Brian, because we have some
Okay.
AC coming through. If that's okay,
Oh,
perfect. And you can unmute whenever you feel like it. Just to know that your AC is definitely making its voice. So the assignment that I put in the chat for all of you that are there is a prompt that was actually inspired by Raquel earlier when she said that she's an event producer and this is what she does when it comes to LLMs and getting ideas and generating ideas. So I put the prompt for you in the chat, and I actually took this prompt and I ran it through multiple LLMs. I do this on a daily basis when I want to compare outputs, and then I pick and choose the best prompt, and then I can either combine them or create this comprehensive post based on that. So like I ran it through ChatGPT and I got this beautiful outline of what this particular output should be, because the prompt was, for anyone that maybe is just listening in, is I'm an event producer responsible for researching topics, creating agendas, sourcing speakers, and writing both email and LinkedIn copy for events. I need help with the following: research topics, and it's very specific what exactly that research topic should be, generating ideas for topics, understanding target titles, creating hashtags, and tweaking writing. So I wanted to see what the output would be if I ran this through ChatGPT, and then I ran it through Perplexity, which again would be my go-to for research. And I would spend some time to compare all of those. And then Claude, because as Brian mentioned, that's something that he would go to as his go to just because it feels more authentic to him. And then I also ran it through Gemini. So I got an output there. Then I ran it through Meta. If you're not familiar with Meta AI, it's actually come a long way as well, and it's pretty solid. I started using it quite a bit lately, and then I ran it through my Potty Rock AWS tool, and I can tell right off the bat this is not the right tool for it, because this is mostly an AI assistant that will help to edit content, not so much generate new ideas. And on the, it's got some kind of output, but it's rewritten. Like it's literally it rewrote what I wrote. So this is not a tool to generate new ideas. It's to rewrite something that you already wrote, and then you can give it a particular style. So while you do that, because I want to see what kind of outputs you're doing, I'm going to run you through a quick workflow, which is something that I use when I create a certain LinkedIn post. And if you are on my LinkedIn profile and you saw this AI news hashtag, this is the type of output that I would get with this workflow. Now, I have different workflows for different LinkedIn posts because I like to sort of like put them in what I like to call it content buckets. So like, for example, on a Monday, I would post AI news. On a Tuesday, I would post AI prompts. On a Wednesday, probably I'll do something related to fitness. And I stole that idea from David Stevens because he does wellness washing really well on Wednesday. I don't go into the wellness washing, but I have other topics related to fitness and fit for events. And then I do something professionally related to my agency on a Thursday, and then a Friday, maybe something more personal. I really like to keep things in buckets, and that way it's easy for me to generate new content. So if this was a Monday and I wanted to generate a new article or a new post on the AI news front, throughout the week, I would keep a live document of different things that come to mind. Like I would pop on Google and find something exciting, and I would drop that URL into this document because it feels like it's newsworthy and I would want to write something about. And this just keeps getting updated. Like sometimes I would delete things, sometimes I would add. And just for the benefit of this particular workflow, I wanted to share with you, see how it works. So now this workflow that you can actually create in Make for free. This does not take tokens, money, or whatever, because Make is an excellent tool for automation, especially to create scenarios. And I have several scenarios, including lead gen and taking comments, the commenters' information from LinkedIn with their name, emails linked, and outputting it into a spreadsheet. And then I can take that spreadsheet into a different automation where I can write a customized email with ChatGPT and send it back to that person that commented, just thanking them for doing, commenting or whatever. So this one will go into my Google Drive. We'll take that particular spreadsheet that I give it here. It will do each one line at a time. So, and that runs on a schedule. You can set up that schedule to be as often as you want it. For me, I just want it to be on a Monday at 7:30 a.m. Because again, like I said, I follow a particular schedule. And then I go to Perplexity to summarize whatever that link was. And Perplexity will go into the link because it has like wide access to the internet. You do have to make a connection to Perplexity. And if you're not familiar with API, this is where connecting your personal API to a tool like Make is important. Now, does that cost money? Sure, you can drop $5 in there for the ability to use the API, but that $5, I promise you, will last a very long time. And you can customize this prompt to be as specific as you want it to be. And I usually give it a template because I wanted to write it in a specific way. And once that's done, I use this router, which what it does is basically sends this information to multiple places. And you can add multiple, as you can see. Like, I'm not gonna do that right now. I already have it done. So we're just gonna go to the ones that, let's delete that one. Okay. So I use two tools here to just for the benefit of showcasing. One is obviously OpenAI, the API that you're going to tap into, and then you're going to give it a particular prompt. And I'm writing a LinkedIn post, and I told it to act as a digital marketing specialist, writing a LinkedIn post about the following article on AI following this template. Again, I go back to the template, and it can be as specific as you want. I do add a CTA. I wanted to ensure the content is visually appealing. It includes thought-provoking questions, some inspirational message at the end, whatever you want to give it. This is the prompt. And then I gave it where it takes that from, which is the output of Perplexity. So once that's done, then I want a image to go with that. So I would go to ChatGPT, Dolly, and then I would ask it to generate an image that it's a 16 by 9 form for LinkedIn. It would be a different format for, say, Instagram, if I wanted to do that. And then for LinkedIn particularly, I followed this workflow where it first sends it to me in an email. Now, I will tell you right off the bat, you're going to see this error because Google email, it will take you to the Google Search Console to create an API that you are going to integrate with Make. It's a bit technical. If you haven't done that before, I have instructions on how to follow step by step, because you need to download the JSON, and you need to have your authentication in order to connect to your Google email, unless you have Google Suite. If you have Google Suite emails, then it's very easy to integrate. But for anyone that has a personal email, that's going to be the trickiest part of all of this workflow, I promise you. And then it will spit it out to LinkedIn. It's connected to my LinkedIn page, and this is the output of what you see there based on that workflow. Now, the same thing I would do, but instead of, for example, going to LinkedIn, I will go to Facebook page. So I would go into, and I also give it a delay. Like here, when you see this tool, basically that's a delay because I don't want ChatGPT to be overwhelmed by giving it all this tasks. So about a minute later, after it performs this one task in here, it would go back and generate a new image in a new format for my Facebook page. And then I decided to use Anthropic Claude for, say, my Instagram. And the prompt for the picture here is in 4:5 format. So it's in the format of Instagram versus 16 by 9. And then it connects to my LinkedIn page. So very easily, I got one link of AI news that is going to go to 3 different places that I just have to make sure that I get the right AI link dropped in this document, and it does the job for me. That's what I love, the ability to run some of those automations and to create some of those templates. And there's so many templates here that make sure you save your changes, by the way. I have lost work over this. That's never fun. But like, for example, some of the other scenarios, like you can integrate Google Sheets and you can integrate LinkedIn with Notions, you can integrate, generate whatever it is that you want to do to lead gen. This is another great one where I would just have information from a Google Sheet, send an email on the hour, and as you can see, it's performed all of its duties. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. I feel like it's a lot. I do teach this class privately on a one-on-one basis. I also teach it in my courses. So if you're someone that is like, oh, that sounds amazing, but I couldn't even follow because it was so much in just like literally 10 minutes. I'm more than happy to guide you through this. That's part of one of my services. And I welcome questions for anyone that, let me see, I see I have Carrie here.
Yeah, I think she was asking about
Oh,
make.com.
May,
I dropped that into
fabulous.
the feed already.
Thank you. Yes. So yes, Carrie, you can play with that. I would highly encourage it. And then if you need more assistance, I'll be more than happy to support that. Let's see. What else do we want to touch on? Brian, the tech stack, do you want to share that with everyone? Because you just put in
Yeah.
the private chat.
Yeah, I dropped it in on LinkedIn
Okay,
in the
perfect.
chat on your feed, and then also on my feed as well. I can try to hit any other destinations, but if not, feel free to send me a note at hello.brianmonahan.me, and I can send that back to you, or Anca as well. We can get you
Fabulous.
that link.
Well, I feel like in closing here, as we try to wrap up, we definitely want to take questions. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I have this question for you, Brian. If as you're using AI into your workflow and your creative process, do you feel like there's certain advancements that you like to see to further assist your writing?
Yeah, I think we go back to the original AI assistant. I think in the coming days, the one thing I see AI tools doing is they're just adding on the little kind of AI button that it's related to the writing. But I think tools that do more compiling of the end output, that do the final polish, is what I would like to see. Example would be, clicking a button, or maybe I send into my database at ConvertKit all of the content for my newsletter, and if I send it to that particular address, when they click a button, it'll compile it in a way that's easy to use. Now, you may be doing that. You are doing that in some way via your make automation for LinkedIn posts, and I may be able to do that. But to actually have people, I like to see apps using AI at a much more functional level than just having basically a little mini ChatGPT prompt within it kind of scenario.
I think for me, I really would love, like, I know OpenAI has talked about bringing this voice functionality, and I think that Gemini just actually
Yeah.
beat them to it, because I was just checking out the latest AI news, and I was going to post about it, which is going to come up earlier than Monday, because this is like really happening right now. This is the fun thing with AI. Like, so many things are happening so fast that almost like if you wait a week to drop the news, that's no longer the news. It's like old news by now, right? So one of the functionality that I'm looking forward to is like this conversational way with AI. Like, I would be in the kitchen fixing myself lunch, and I have this amazing idea, and I just want to talk to my AI to elaborate on it without me having to go and open my phone and you do all of that. It's like hands free. Can we use AI hands-free kind of way where we interact with it. It can almost like read our mind. And I know this is like a little bit out there. And for some people, it's like scary as shit because like, oh, I don't want AI to read my
Mm.
mind or read my thoughts. It's like whatever. Um, for me, it's all about efficiency and productivity. Can we make that actually that leap?
No, I think, I have no doubt that's going to be available. I think the biggest issues with AI in the future are privacy, and that's a whole nother
Yeah.
podcast. So, but yeah, I think that would be fun. I'm sure there's some version of that available. I mean, I do use the voice assistant on my phone into ChatGPT. I use Otter.ai. Some other pieces of my tech stack that I didn't really get into is I often will dictate an article into Otter.ai. I'll pull that transcript, move it over to Hemingway, and do another round. But an additional step, but that is available as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Carrie. Like
Mm,
some kind of a integration in which, like the way I talk to my Alexa or my Google,
mm,
whatever assistant in the kitchen. Like I would love to be able to talk to a ChatGPT the
yeah.
same way,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, as you said, Alexa, everybody who's listening on their speakers and not their headphones, Alexa's waking up and Siri's waking up right now. Sorry, everybody.
That's right. It's like I
Yeah.
actually had
Yeah.
to turn it off in my office because it would constantly interrupt my workflow. I'm like, shut up. All right. So Brian, as a I guess wrap up, key takeaways, and then call to action. What do you want our attendants to remember?
Yeah, I think the thing I want you to remember is I went through a whole list of tools, and the most important thing is that you pick one of them, whether you're working in ChatGPT already and you're going to use it in a new way, or you're going to add the text expander app to your workflow. Pick one thing we did today and test it out and tiptoe in it and build on that. And that's the key to technology. If you don't actually activate against it, it's useless. And so that would be my tip for today. And it is accessible. I started from scratch and built from scratch. So that's always my encouragement is you gotta stick your toe in the water.
And if you're some kind of an inspiring author, Brian has this beautiful website where he helps you write the framework, book the framework, write the book. And I know that he has done it successfully with some of my author friends. Anything you want to add to this for anyone that's new to this process or framework?
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot of professionals here on the call, and it's like, how do you help yourself stand out in today's world? And I think being a thought leader and writing a book is still kind of the gold standard for personal branding. And so I encourage you to consider how do you bring those thoughts together. And I will embrace you using AI through the process, but a book's within your reach. It's doable. I actually have a framework. We can get it done in about 90 days. I call it the 90-day knockout. And we get your book done, and then we move on to editing and self-publishing. And I think a lot of people think it's a book's outside their reach, and it's just not. It's available to you, and it's worth the time and effort.
Love it. Well, for me, as a takeaway and call to action, I just wanted to encourage you to start integrating AI into your writing process and see how it can enhance your creativity, productivity, efficiency, whether it's like brainstorming ideas or maybe organizing your content or even helping with that first draft. AI can really be that assistant that you wish you had just a few years ago. So give it a try. Don't hesitate to experiment with different tools to find what works for you, different LLMs that are out there. I constantly try new tools, and the choice is mine to decide: do I want to incorporate this new tool into my tech stack, or am I happy with what I have because what I have fulfills maybe 90% of the things that I need to do. And if you're ready to step it up further, I mean, we definitely offer personalized guidance on how to write books, how to write contents, frameworks. I help my clients with how to effectively use AI in all aspects of the business process. And yeah, you're more than welcome to reach out for a consultation. The 15 minutes are free. So
Mm.
I love to help you out. If that's something that interests you, you can book that on my website. I'll drop that link into the chat as well. And I wanted to also highlight one more thing. Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about your one book that you had was out? When did you publish that?
Yeah, actually, I'll go ahead and grab it. It's in the background. It's
Oh, show it. Yes.
customer delight. I mentioned that, hey, there's nothing better than having this. And so, in an AI world, having this hard copy physical book is really powerful. But my book's called Customer Delight 365. And it's kind of an amalgamation of all the things I've learned working in the hospitality industry for a better part of 20 years, and it's built in a daily affirmation style format, so you can read it. It's very accessible, easy to read, and it's actually a model that I carry on into how I coach people how to quickly deploy their ideas in a book format. So it's actually an example of the style of book that I generally work with people on. So head out to Amazon, find that. And if you're real nice and send me a note, I may even send out some signed copies to people who are on the podcast, on the broadcast today. So
I love it. And then for everything else, I mean, you kind of know where to find us. We are on LinkedIn quite presently, as you have noticed.
mhm.
You can connect with Brian via his website. Also, the QR code listed on the screen right now. You can connect with me as well. And I also have a website and a QR code, or you can just find me on LinkedIn, as I mentioned. And I don't see any questions in chat. I guess we did such a good job and answered
Yep.
everything so well that
or,
there's
or
nothing
or they're all in the fetal position with too much information.
that could happen.
Yeah,
Well, the good
yeah,
news is
yeah.
there's going to be a replay of this, an on-demand option. So if you need to go back, I think it was Claire that said, so much, going to have to watch back slowly. Yes, I need to pause, go. And hopefully you have taken something away from this. And if you have ideas on other things that we should cover or talk about, I'm always open to suggestions. So drop those either in the chat or DM us. And we look forward to seeing you on a different stream. Brian, thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah.
workflow. I know that that's not something that you normally do like on a daily. So that was quite interesting to see because I didn't even know it myself.
Well, I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, and yeah, I like to share what I do. So hopefully, I can inspire somebody to improve their life, whether it's workflow or somewhere else.
All right. Well, with that, we'll see you on LinkedIn or on a different AI related or book writing related stream. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Yeah, hump day. Here we go. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.